There are guys on Wall Street who get rich in a way that honestly shouldn't even be allowed. I'm talking 26-year-olds with watches that cost more than your car. They don't build anything. They don't invent anything. They don't cure cancer. They just know how to legally pull the money out of a business before that business even knows it's dying. That's private equity. It's the only business model where someone can pull out hundreds of millions in cash, leave a company drowning in debt, the company collapses 2 years later, and somehow that guy is still rich and on a boat telling you to work harder. Let's walk through exactly how that works. So the next time some dude tells you, I'm in private equity, you understand he's not helping companies. He's basically looting the company with paperwork instead of a ski mask. So here's how the game really goes, and from nice to meet you to where did all the money go. Step 1, they need money to play with. So private equity guys go to big money, pension funds, insurance companies, university endowments, rich family offices, and they're like, hey, give us billions. We are professionals. We'll fix broken companies, make them amazing, and you'll all get rich. They talk like Avengers. After they raise that money, they do step 2, shopping. They go hunting for a company to buy. Let's call this company XY Corp. XY might be a hospital chain or a chain of vet clinics or a manufacturer or a website or a nursing home, literally anything that makes steady money. Now here's the first dirty move. Private equity does not buy XY with their own cash like normal people. They do what's called a leveraged buyout, LBO, and leveraged buyout sounds like some graduate school nonsense.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
But it's actually stupid simple and stupid evil. Here's what it means in human. They borrow a ton of money to buy XY, and then they make XY the one that owes the money. I'll say that again, because this is the moment that breaks people's brains. They borrow money to buy the company, then they dump that new debt onto the company they just bought. So private equity gets control, and the company they bought gets the debt. Imagine if I bought your house using a bank loan, but then I said, congrats. The mortgage is now in your name. I live here. And also, I'll be needing rent from you every month because I'm supervising you. That's private equity. And this move isn't rare. This isn't one shady deal, this is the model. Leverage buyout is literally the standard way private equity takes control of companies. Now, you might say, okay, but why? Why do they do it like that? Why not just pay for the company normally, own it, and be done? Let's run numbers. Scenario 1, normal person world. You buy a company for $100 million using $100 million of your own money. Later, you sell it for $150 million. You made $50 million. You're happy. You call your mom. Scenario 2, private equity world. You don't use $100 million of your own money. You only put in, say, $20 million of your real cash. The other $80 million, you borrow. You still buy the company for $100 million. You still sell it for $150 million. But now, after you pay back the loan, the win is sitting on top of your 20, not on top of 100, so your personal return looks insane. Leverage is profit steroids, and steroids have side effects, right? Your body explodes, your kidneys are crying. Same thing here. The kidney damage is the company. The risk sits on the company's balance sheet and not in your personal pocket. If something goes wrong, it's XY Corp that's gasping for air, not you. Cool. Now they own XY. When I say own, I don't mean spiritually, I mean legally. They control board seats, they control decisions, they control spending, who gets fired, who gets promoted, what locations get shut down. They are in the cockpit now. XY is theirs. But remember this, XY is now carrying this giant new debt that got stapled to its forehead the moment it was bought. The company didn't ask for that debt. Private equity stapled it there, so XY is already behind on day one. So what happens next? Now we get to the famous part private equity always calls improving operations. I love that phrase. We're going to improve operations. We're here to streamline. We're here to drive efficiency. It sounds so clean. Let me translate improve operations into what it usually looks like in real life. Fire people. Cut unnecessary stuff like training, safety, maintenance, backup coverage, lunch breaks, you name it. Raise prices for the customers, lower quality to the legal minimum, bleed suppliers for better terms, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. They call that unlocking value. Employees call that, I haven't seen my kids awake in a week. Customers call that, why did the price go up and the service turn into garbage overnight? And this isn't hypothetical. This is literally why people hate private equity in healthcare, in emergency rooms, in nursing homes, in vet clinics. So now under new ownership, XY might look better on paper. Payroll costs are lower because you cut staff. Profit margin looks higher because you raised prices. Overhead is lower because you shut off literally anything that doesn't immediately spit cash. To a spreadsheet, XY looks healthier. To an actual human inside XY, XY feels like a hostage situation. Now pause, because this next part is important. Most people think private equity makes money only if they flip the company later for a profit, but they do not wait until happily ever after. They pay themselves while the movie is still playing.
Yeah, boy.
And if the ending sucks, they don't care because the money is already in their pockets. Let me explain how they do that. There are basically 3 money taps. Money tap number 1, management fees. This is my favorite because it's literally money for existing. Remember those investors, the pensions, insurance companies, etc., who gave them billions to go out and buy companies? Private equity charges those investors a fee just to manage that money. Usually something like 2% a year. So if they raise a $10 billion fund, 2% is about $200 million a year just for managing the fund. Imagine getting paid $200 million a year just to be like, yeah, we're looking into some opportunities. That's the energy. So they're already eating off the top of D before they've saved anybody. Money tap number 2, fees they charge the company they just bought. This is where it gets dirty in a creative way. On paper, XY is now owned by private equity, but XY is still legally its own company. That means private equity can bill XY like a client. So they literally invoice the company they own.
You serious?
I am not joking. They make up fees for literally anything. They charge transaction fees. We did the deal to buy you. Please pay us a transaction fee for buying you. That is like if I kidnapped you and then invoiced you for gas money. They charge monitoring fees, consulting fees, advisory fees. Honestly, they just invent a fee for anything that moves.
If it moves, hit it! If it don't move, hit it!
This is literally how the money flows. The company they just bought is being milked from the inside.
He needs some milk.
And you might say, why even call it a fee? Why not just take the cash out of the account and say thanks? Because calling it a fee makes it look professional instead of like open robbery. When you put consulting fee or a monitoring fee on a PDF, that looks like a legit business expense. So fees are not just money, fees are camouflage. They're PR for extraction. Now we're on money tab number 3, and this is the most aggressive one. This one will make you go, how is nobody in prison for this? It's called a dividend recap. This is the we get paid before the story ends move. Here's how it works. Let's say our private equity firm bought XY for $1 billion. Did they actually spend $1 billion of their own cash? No. Maybe they only put in $200 million of real money. The rest was borrowed. We've already talked about that. Then they do this. They make XY go take on even more debt. XY borrows another $250 million. Then, listen carefully, they take that $250 million and pay it out to themselves as a special dividend. Let's sit on that for a second. They put in $200 million. They already pulled out $250 million in cash to themselves. They still own XY, and XY is now the one sitting there with an even bigger mountain of debt than before. Translation, they're already up. Before they fixed anything, before they sold anything, before success. So, if XY collapses 2 years later because it can't breathe under all that debt, so what? Private equity already took more money out than they ever put in. They've literally profited off a company that might not even survive them. That's how private equity makes billions, even if the business dies. Now, normal brain asks, wait. If everyone knows this is the move, why would a bank or lender even give XY that extra $250 million for that special dividend? Why lend to a company that's clearly getting milked like a cow with asthma? Because that debt pays insane interest. This is what they call high-yield debt. The lender is not stupid. The lender knows XY might blow up in 3 years. The lender's like, yeah, I know. That's why I'm charging this crazy interest rate. I'll get paid while it's still alive, and if it dies later, whatever. So check the scoreboard. Private equity already got their payout. The lenders get high interest. XY, the company doing the actual work, is the one choking and trying not to die. So if the company fails, who actually suffers? The workers, the customers, the community around it, maybe the suppliers. The fund guys? They're on a yacht saying market conditions were challenging. And this is why people hate private equity. Not because rich people bad, blah, blah, but because structurally, it is built so that the upside is captured early by the owners, and the downside is left sitting on the company like a bomb. Private equity literally turned risk into something they can outsource. They keep the cream, the company keeps the cancer. And look, to be fair, so I don't lie to you, sometimes private equity does actually save a business. Sometimes they take a lazy, bloated, slow, about-to-die company, cut the dead parts, force discipline, and, yeah, that company survives. That does happen. It's not 100% cartoon villain, but a lot of the time, it's not save this company. It's milk this company, cash out, and if it dies, we already got paid. And by now, you might be wondering, if this is such a sure thing, why isn't everyone doing it? Why doesn't every random Joe just start a private equity firm or throw their money into these funds? Well, the short answer is it's not that easy. You need access to big-time investors, you need a serious reputation, and these funds aren't open to just anyone with a few bucks. They want millions or billions. So yeah, it's a game, but not everyone gets to play. So when somebody flexes, I'm in private equity, don't say, oh, so you do stocks? No, stocks is kindergarten. What he's actually saying is, I buy companies with borrowed money. I make those same companies carry the debt, I charge them fees for the privilege of being owned by me, then I force them to borrow even more money, and I pay myself a special dividend. That's the actual job description. That's how you make millions in your 20s. That's how the fund makes billions. That's how you can succeed, even if the company you bought never truly recovers and maybe doesn't even survive. That's private equity.